So today we're joined by Ajit George from Second Chances Farm. So thank you very much for joining us today. Could you give us just a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. Came to the United States as a 16-year-old to go to the University of Delaware 50 years ago. So I've been not a Delawarean, but I've been here for a long time. And by background, I was a real estate developer, primarily in the Caribbean, commuted between Wilmington and the Caribbean, retired from real estate development 10 years ago. I had a license from TED to organize TEDx Wilmington from 2011 to 2018. So I organized 32 TEDx Wilmington events featuring 469 speakers and attracted 31 million views. So I had a lot of fun bringing ideas from around the world to Wilmington. And since 2017, I've been working full-time on this idea called Second Chances Farm.
Great, thank you. So could you give us a little bit of background about the farm? How did Second Chances Farm come about? How did it begin?
Genesis started with a chef named Matt Haley, who won a James Beard Award in 2014, who invited me to consider doing an event that I was organizing calling the Mid-Atlantic Wine and Food Festival inside a prison. I thought he was crazy for suggesting doing a food and wine event inside a prison. But to make a long story short, the event happened. Unfortunately, he died in the middle prior to the event happening. But in 2015, I did an event at Baylor Women's Correctional Institution called Breaking Bread Behind Bars. And at that event, I started to get familiar with a lot of folks who were in the prison and started to learn more about the prison system. And then I did a TEDx event inside Baylor Women's Correctional Institution in July of 2015 called Second Chances and Redemption. And from there, I ended up attending an event at TEDx San Quentin in San Quentin Maximum Security Prison in California. And between all these events, I started to realize a lot of people were in prison in the United States. 90% of them came out, and 65% of them typically went back in within 3 to 5 years. It was much of a revolving door. And so I figured, what could I as one human being do to make an impact? So in 2017, I made a promise that I would, in 2016, I listened to 2 TEDx talks, one by a returning citizen named Saad Solomon. He was giving a TEDx Wilmington about how you could have second chances, and somebody else who had a brand new idea, that for me anyway, called indoor vertical farm in urban areas. And I thought if I combine those 2 ideas, I might have a way to deal with some of the issues of recidivism. I was fairly naive at that point to think how easy it would be. It's been a long journey since then. But in 2017, I made a promise that by the age of 70, which when I was 63 at that point, that I would create 70 people who are entrepreneurs, who were all returning citizens, as we call the former incarcerated persons, by working in indoor vertical farms. And about a year ago, on September 4th, 2019, we moved into our 47,500 square foot building in the northeast side of Wilmington on 3030 Bauer Street in an economically depressed area. And we set up our first farm in early January with a cohort of 10 returning citizens. That's the shortest way I could describe our story, but I'm happy to answer specific questions.
So, yeah, and again, if anybody has questions, you can put them in the chat or in the comments on Facebook. So the organization's mission statement, I mean, it says right in there that you're specifically focusing on those returning home or re-entering society. So how many people, since you guys have started up, do you think you've been able to help in that way?
So as of today, we have 19 people, 18 people who are returning citizens at the farm. As of next Tuesday, we will have 38. We are adding 20 new people. So it's a pretty dramatic growth. So on January 1st, we had 0. January 6th, we had 10. And now on Tuesday, September 8th, we'll have 38 returning citizens. That's huge growth considering it's COVID time, considering all that has happened. We are probably one of the few growth businesses that actually hired people, but we really want to transform people's lives, and we also want to grow our grow our farms. So you can't do that without bringing good people and training them.
Yeah. What are the what kind of jobs are there to help keep the farm going?
Well,
That they're working
we
on.
were. Yeah, well, what we talk about is we do a lot of training. What we're trying to do is not to create farmers. We're trying to create entrepreneurs. We want them to be independent. So, but to do that, you got to learn what everything goes in an indoor vertical farm. An indoor vertical farm, which we haven't talked about, is really hydroponic. There is no soil. It's multiple levels, and our shortest stack is 6 levels. The highest is 8 levels. So you got to. There's a germination room where you got to learn how to germinate properly. Seeds in bulk. We literally probably seed over 100 to 200 to 300,000 seeds, depending on the week, a year, every week throughout the year. So it's a lot of seeds. There is a specific germination methods. Then they got to be transplanted, and then you wait for them to grow and nurture them. You provide nutrients, and then also on the same time, at the end of 4 weeks or 5 weeks, we harvest them, and then you got to package them, and so the process goes, and then you clean the rafts that they were in, and the cycle starts again. But it's really teaching folks what does it mean to be responsible for yourself. If you have served time in any prison, you have been told what to do, when to wake up, what to do, where you can go, what your freedom is. There's been a lot of structure, very not necessarily particularly attractive structure, but structure. We are now trying to break that structure by telling people, yes, they need to show up on time, they need to pay attention, but they also need to take initiative. And so it's getting people out of their cocoon and really nurturing them to become independent thinkers. That's because the challenge is really paying attention to detail. Is a plant not, why are some plants growing faster than others? Is there some bacterial infection? Is there a problem with the water? Is the nutrient right amount? So it's that kind of question that needs to get answered.
Gotcha. So what's the overall size of the staff there?
So we have about half a dozen. We have about 5 or 6 other members who are non-returning citizens who are part of the leadership team, including myself, chief growing officer. We have a person who's Patricia May, who's our restorative justice program manager. She's the one who interviews everyone that comes in. We have a couple of people that write and do it, but we're relatively small given the size of the farm because we don't want to encumber it with a lot of overhead. But the reality is what we're trying to do is something very dynamic.
Yeah. What are the range of plants that you guys are currently cultivating then?
Cultivating inside, we grow everything from tatsoi, Swiss chard, oregano, dill, kale, arugula, Chinese broccoli, spring mix, sage, basil. The list just goes on. We can grow strawberries if we wanted. We can grow tomatoes, but we don't want to compete with field products when they are the cheapest. But what we want to do is grow. What we're learning, teaching people and learning how to grow really well is leafy greens and herbs.
Are they tend to do better in the vertical setting, or how did you?
Just because most of that produce doesn't grow in the field in Delaware. They get shipped 1,500 miles. So as a member of the Cereal Club can appreciate, carbon footprint is a major issue in transportation of food. And if it's not grown nearby, it comes from somewhere else. It will show up in our grocery stores. Nobody thinks about it, but the reality is on an average, it travels 1,200 to 1,500 miles from the source to where it is sold. And so by growing it locally, first of all, it's fresher. Within 24 to 48 hours, it's on the table or it's in the store. More importantly, year-round, we can grow it. So 365 days, we can grow it. And so the combination, growing year-round, and the combination of being local and fresher. And we also don't use any pesticide or herbicides because we're not outside, because it's a controlled environment in agriculture. So I think it's what I will call the low-hanging fruit, and we want to really become very good at growing low-hanging fruit. And then when the time comes for strawberries and other things, we can grow it. We've done very well, particularly in the winter. And so that's part of the nurturing job is trying to figure out, which arugula grows really well in this climate, which bok choy grows well. It's a Shanghai bok choy or other bok choy, and the flavor profiles for it, you would never think you have all those choices, but there's a lot of different kinds of bok choy, and most people have never seen it, but once they start sauteing it with stuff, people absolutely, first when we distribute bok choy, they had no idea. Now we have people who get complained when they don't get bok choy in a week. So
interesting. Yeah, I've always just seen it one label, right? Bok choy. So we had a couple of questions,
sure.
kind of on, I guess, on expansion efforts. Both of them, I think,
Yeah.
are about kind of expansion plans. So are there plans to expand Second Chances Farm to other locations? And will there be kind of you talking about the entrepreneurial aspect of things? So are they going to be starting, is the hope to kind of get some of these people you're training to be able to run additional sites?
So let me answer it in two different ways, and I think it'll helpful. One is, yes, we are planning to expand. We're hoping to expand to Philadelphia next. That is the next farm that we hope to expand to. We are working very aggressively to set up a farm in North Philadelphia, which is a food desert, and Philadelphia is the fifth largest city, so it's a right and appropriate place for us to be. It's within 27 miles or 30 miles from our farm, easy to support and service. So it's not like traveling to Boston or traveling to Miami. It's an easy way to do it. We can also send people from here who have been trained in our methodology who are familiar to go in. But in terms of our entrepreneurial opportunities, what we are planning to do is, so when people come in, and there's a very rigorous screening method, they get paid $13 an hour for 18 weeks. At the end of 16 weeks. And at the end of 16 weeks, they can choose to stay with us, or we can say, we really like you and they like us. Then we say, fine. Then we retain them for 52 weeks in an entrepreneur in residence program, EIR. And an entrepreneur in residence program, those words are really intentional. We didn't want to call it apprentice or farmer. We wanted them to think of themselves as being an entrepreneur in residence, no different from being in a technology company, because we are a smart farm. There's enormous amount of technology involved in growing the food. We got 52 weeks. They get paid $31,200 plus medical benefits and even a 401k. And the end of 1 year, the 52 weeks, that program ends. And if they want to stay, we give them a gift of a couple of things. One is a new title, agripreneur. Second, we set up a Delaware LLC for them in the name that they choose. Third, we pay a business license for a year. During the 52 weeks, we train them about what does it mean to pay property taxes, what's profit, and then we offer them the opportunity to work as an independent contractor with us in one of our farms. And if they are very good at going bok choy, they will say, let me grow bok choy. I say, how many rows of bok choy, or how many modules would you want to grow by yourself? And just picking a number, let's say they want to go 5 rows or 3 rows, they will say, we'll agree on a price that we'll pay once a week when they harvest us. We'll provide the facility, we'll provide the electricity, the water, the seeds, everything, because they won't have access to capital or credit. And their job is to grow it and sell it and deliver it to us once a week. They don't have to find the marketplace or package it. We'll take care of everything after that. And the whole idea is to give them opportunities to expand. And if they're successful, they can say, I want more roles in this farm or another farm, and they can hire people underneath them under the EIRs, under the agripreneur company that they want. And so that's the independent contractor. The nature of the business part of it is the entrepreneurial. And they do this without having to put up any money or borrow any money. At the end of roughly 10 years, when opportunity zones are sort of come to a normal ending, which is the life cycle of an opportunity zone, what we do is when the company gets sold, either to a third party or through an employee stock ownership plan, we reserve 10% of the total company, equity of the company, for each farm to the returning citizens who are working, who will be there. So the returning citizens, in addition to getting paid for their product for some time during the period, will get 10% of the equity. It's like stock options on the stuff, because you can't be a capitalist or an entrepreneur if you don't have access to capital. But meanwhile, they've been paid, on an agreed upon basis. It is not unlike how the chicken farmers work in Delaware. They get a contract with a major chicken manufacturer, I mean like Purdue or Mountain Air or whoever they choose. Then in their case, they take that contract to a bank or a Mid-Atlantic credit, borrow the money, build a chicken coop, sell the chicken to Purdue or whoever, and Purdue sends a check to the bank to make sure the payments are made and the balance goes to them. And when the contract is finished, the farmhouse is free for them. So it's here, they don't have to borrow money. They don't have to worry about credit. We'll set up the farm for them.
Gotcha. So hopefully that answered the question for you, Ariel. So what is the different methods that, well, actually first, the products that you're growing right now, where are those going? Where do people purchase those at? How does that work?
All right. So if you had asked me this question before March 16th, I would have said our two marketplaces were restaurants, and the second marketplaces was supermarkets. We were focusing for the first year on restaurants. March 16th, when we started our harvest, first harvest, is also the day the governor shut down all the restaurants. So we lost all of our orders in one swoop. So we had to either go out of business or pivot, my new favorite word, and we sort of pivoted in 24 hours, came up with a farm-to-table home delivery program, even though we didn't know how we were going to deliver. We didn't have any packaging. We didn't have a marketing machine. We set it up in a day, tested it out. Thanks to all our friends, we had a pretty nice response, and we sold everything we made on farm-to-table programs. So we now currently deliver in southeastern Pennsylvania, Chester County and Delaware County. We deliver in Newcastle County and Cecil County, Maryland, a once a week farm-to-table package of our produce. And that has created a whole new market that we didn't think we had no intention to go to retail. So that's our accidental market, which has become our surviving market, if you may. Restaurants are slowly opening up, and we expect to see that slowly going up, and some will go out of business. It's definitely not going to be a rush into the restaurant business. And we got a certification earlier this year called Good Agriculture Practice Certification from USDA. We're only one of 5 farms in Delaware at that point to get USDA certification. That enables us to sell grocery stores. We have essentially reached an agreement to sell to ShopRite's stores in Newcastle County. It's the largest market share. And then we hope to sell other grocery stores and then move to hospitals, which have a resident population, retirement communities, and set up a corporate CSA in a very aggressive way. A corporate CSA simply means we'd love to deliver to a bank or an employer once a week packages for their employees. So if there's 50 employees that sign up, they don't have to leave the building. We'll bring it to their lobby and they pick it up and take it home from them. That's what we mean by corporate CSA. Instead of them having to come pick up, we'll go to their place of work and do that. So that's our plan. It's a multi-task. It's to sell within 30 miles here. So it's Philadelphia, South Jersey, Cecil County, Maryland, and southeastern Pennsylvania, and northern Newcastle County.
So when we go to ShopRite, if people go to ShopRite, will they see like a second chance?
It'll be a second chances for label. We are not in there as of this week. We hope to be there within the next 2 weeks. We're just working through some mechanics. We have the packaging, we have the labels, and we're just working out the pricing. Yes, you'll be seeing second chances from, because that's the branding. And we're hoping to be at the same price as the competitive basil, for example. So all things being equal, that's literally what they get to do, is to say, wow, it's not any more expensive. Let's help somebody who's helping others.
Sorry, just trying to get some clarification on the question.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that question was, so it's good that you asked it back.
So what are are there other methods that people from outside the business that aren't directly working from you help support the farm?
Sure. I mean, so we have a group of people who we're going through training to become mentors. We want to have one-on-one mentors for each of our returning citizens. A mentor is somebody, not a boss, but somebody who can work with our returning citizens for a span of 52 weeks, help them when things are not going well, encourage them. Most of the folks here have never had mentors. Some of them never even had parent figures. So it's a real interesting place to be. And what we are hoping is that will help folks to have a non-work related resource that they can count on. And so that's one thing, one way people can help us. They can become mentors. We call them advocates, but it's all advocates and mentors. Obviously, we're getting ready to do a crowdfunding later this year. Within a month and a half, we have raised a bunch of capital, but we had a lot of requests from people who were not very wealthy who wanted to invest with us. So we're doing a campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, which we cannot disclose beyond who on which platform it is at this point. But people can invest in us as little as $500, and we're going to try to raise $1.7 million. And that is to give non-wealthy accredited investors, in other words, people who we give a different group of people a chance to invest and be part of our story.
Gotcha. So the question was for the people that go through, I believe this is what it is. The people that go through the program to come out the other side and begin doing their own ag business. Do they have to? Is there any paying back or anything like that after they're done through the program? I think that's the question.
And if it is, the answer is simple: no. They don't owe us any money, and we don't owe them any money. It's we take a risk on them. And if they don't become entrepreneurs and residents with us because they want to go in farming, we hope what they learned will help them. One of our important goals of measurement is to look 5 years from now, regardless of whether they are with us or not, is to see whether they re-entered the prison. If they have not been arrested and re-entered the prison, we have succeeded in reducing recidivism. That's sort of our first and primary goal. Second goal is, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, so we want to reduce recidivism by essentially providing them tools to do that. And if they're not with us, we hope they don't re-enter prison. And for those who remain with us, we want to continue to support them. We have, for example, on every Tuesday, we do a AA program here. We do various kinds of support systems, because this is a group that has a lot of setbacks, and we want to support them through their journey.
Gotcha. So do you feel like the program kind of prepares them for other business ventures, even if it doesn't end up being agricultural?
Yeah, we have a course that we're starting actually next week or the week after, which is a national course that we're bringing here called Inmates to Entrepreneurs. It literally teaches them what a gross margin is and what a net profit is and how to create a balance sheet. For people, for even those terms don't mean anything. And it takes it down to third grade level. So there is no language. You don't have to be an accountant to understand it. Say, I think it's an 12-week program, and they will probably know more than 90% of the people who are not accountants about what does it mean to have a profitable business.
I tell you, I had to take I had to take courses like that for my bachelor's degree, and it was painful. So anybody that takes it, the best of luck. It is,
but this is a pattern on a program for people who didn't even finish high school. So it is not, I don't want to say it's simplistic. It is simply is elegantly done so that people can understand. And what we tell people is, don't come here if you want to be a worker. Our goal is to create a new class of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So another good question here. Ariel has really given us some great questions, and we're going to speak more and do more with her in the future as well. So keep an eye out for that. But anyway, she asked, has COVID affected your program? Was there any setbacks related to, aside from obviously the restaurant shutting down? Did you guys have other issues?
No, we were an essential business, thank God, so we could work. Obviously, there's risk, but obviously, as of now, we have had no incidents of COVID. Nobody has been sick that I know of. Everybody has been tested at least once or twice, because we are next to Eastside Charter. There's weekly testings there. No, it hasn't been adversely affected. In many ways, it's positively affected us, because people for the first time because of the disruption in the food supply, people ask questions, realize they had no idea where food came from. Because when they buy from the grocery stores, I mean, nobody sits and looks at, other than if it's made from China, then you worry about it. But, the fact is coming from California, Arizona, or Mexico, or Costa Rica, nobody worried about it. But this could cause a huge disruption in normal patterns. And our ability to explain the story of locally grown food is enhanced by the COVID.
Yeah, so I don't know much of anything about agriculture. I'm kind of very new to this whole world. But I'm fascinated. I've watched a few documentaries about kind of asking you that question: where does your food come from? And I was, really kind of taken back that I didn't really know where most of my food came from. And these documentaries were really kind of pushing that to think about it. Not just in the health aspect of the planet, but also yourselves, right? Like if the food has to be shipped from a long distance, or if it's being propped up by chemicals and pesticides in order to be able to grow, how does that affect your body? Not to mention the travel affecting the planet. So it was like really interesting documentaries. But
yeah, go ahead.
The one thing that kind of stuck out to me was how much that a lot of the fruits that we eat are, we really should be eating based on season. But would you say that in this kind of indoor farming world, could you even foresee being able to grow those kinds of things all year?
So, well, it is interesting you talk about it. I was just reading an article from indoor farms where they're trying to grow blueberries, strawberries, and the berries. The amazing technological change occurred because of LED lights, because they can now create LED lights that are essentially simulating the sun and on the stuff. That's the power. And once you get that, then the question is, there's other kinds of growing issues, growing medium on the stuff. But we are growing things that you could not imagine having grown before in water and indoors. But for sure, I've tasted some of the best and juiciest strawberries were grown in an indoor vertical farm.
Very interesting. So if somebody, so you said that you're looking to hire additional people.
So I'm looking to hire additional returning citizens.
Yeah.
So a returning citizen is defined. Let's define it. Is somebody who has spent at least one night in prison or more, or has been convicted and has a record, but for whatever reason didn't end up in prison. I mean, that sometimes it happens because they plea bargain them away. But they end up becoming damaged goods either way, because when they go to find a job, somebody does a background check, this shows up. And it is those folks that we want to heal by having them come and be part of Second Chances Farm.
So is there like an application process, or do you guys?
There's a very intense online. We don't talk to anybody first. We don't take personal interviews. There's an online application on our website under secondchancesfarm.com. It's under, I believe it's under a button called Let's Get Involved. And basically what we have is a whole process. The application is intimidating, but it's intended because we want to know whether people are actually will take time to even apply for a job. And if you're not going to apply, and so it's intended to ask a lot of questions, but everyone who fills it gets an interview with Patty May, who is our Restorative Justice Program Manager. And then they're evaluated based on their interests, their aptitudes, and then really for us is we have 230 applicants, and we will have 38 people that we'll bring up. So it's almost 1 in 9, if you can imagine that in applications. So there's always good people we're not hiring, but we hopefully hire them in the next cohort. But the reality is there is no shortage of amazing talent out there.
So are the other, if you do expand to Philadelphia, the business model will carry forward?
Yeah, and we'll hire people from Philadelphia, but we'll take some from here so that there's a peer group on the stuff. There's a peer group on that stuff. So,
gotcha. So you guys also had you applied for a grant, which you received a substantial grant. So what are the plans kind of moving forward with the farm in terms of kind of expanding and getting helping the community with the funding that you guys were able to get through that grant? Oh, you're muted.
I get it. Sorry, the grant was relatively, I mean, it was a very important grant, but it was helped us $175,000 grant. But we have raised close to $2 million now from private capital. And we need to raise another $1,070,000 through the crowdfunding, and then probably another $500,000. So indoor vertical farms are very expensive because it takes a lot of infrastructure to do it. But now that we have survived COVID, people have saw that we survived it. It's getting a slightly more easier to raise capital. People believe us. You can taste our food, and it's not like we're talking. Instead of showing pictures of cilantro, I can actually give them the cilantro from us, right? And so it's a difference at taste, and you can see stuff. So from our perspective, we are a for-profit corporation, but we are a public benefit corporation. So the difference being is the reason we're not nonprofit, we want to be completely economically sustainable. And also, there's no way you can give a profit, 10% of the profit, to a returning citizen at any time if we were a nonprofit. So the notion was to create a for-profit, self-sustaining public benefit corporation that really will enable returning citizens to have a piece of the action down the line.
Is a lot of the investment, is kind of the infrastructure is upfront, like once you've
all
bought it,
all of it is upfront, unfortunately. Yeah. Except for the labor cost. So it's millions of dollars have to be spent upfront.
Yeah. So I actually Ariel asked another question that I actually was curious about as well. So understanding the idea behind the application process, if somebody has like a reading challenges, a lot of times you'll see with inmates that, they didn't have the best educational opportunities as well. It doesn't mean their work ethic isn't fantastic, but so is there a way, any assistance or anything like that to help those kind of people that have those sort of difficulties?
We don't provide them. That's because we don't have the skill set to cure that. But there's no shortage of people that work with remedial reading and GED programs on it. If you cannot read or write or fill out an application form, it'll be very hard to work. We are an incredibly smart technology farm. Water probes, pH levels, and nutrients. There is CO2 levels being read, temperatures, humidity levels. We can teach you, but you've got to be able to read, and you got to be able to write somewhat. So otherwise it doesn't work. So we are not gearing to people. This is an indoor vertical farm, so it's not like an outdoor farm. So it's not physical labor. You're working in air conditioning 365 days a year. The farm is continuously air conditioned. So it's not physical labor in the brute sense of working outside in a California farm. This is more of a smart farmer. So we really do need you to have an aptitude to fill out the application, which is why we make the application somewhat difficult, because we want to know whether you can even finish it. And if you can't finish it, we don't have the resources, but others have the resources to get them educated to get there.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're actually a little bit over time now.
Sure.
So just want to double check. We didn't get any. Yeah. So we didn't get any questions on the Facebook feed. But I want to thank you for joining us today and letting us know a little bit more about your business, your organization. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you all, everybody who watched on Zoom and on Facebook. We'll be, clipping the edges off of this. I'm posting it up on YouTube, probably by the end of today or early tomorrow. So if anybody missed the beginning, they can go back and either watch the Facebook feed that will stay there permanently, or it will be up on our website. And Second Chances Farm will also be sharing it. So I appreciate everybody for joining us. Thank you so much, Ajit. It was nice talking with you.
Take care. Bye-bye.